Hi, I'm Lisa from Perth Sewing Centre in Malaga, Western Australia. Today I'm giving you a quick basic overview on the Overlock Gloria. This is an 8-thread machine, which means it's combined overlocking and cover stitch. Hope you enjoy.
With the power to the overlocker turned off, we'll plug the power cord into the allocated connection, and then we have the foot control. The foot control goes into the small circle, the jack underneath. We have an on switch and an off switch. The O represents off, the 1 represents on. So we'll pop that on. Here we have the flywheel, the hand wheel, sometimes it's known as. Now underneath, along the bottom of the machine, there is a channel. That is where your foot control cord runs along nice and neatly so that it comes out at the front of your machine.
At the right hand side of your machine you have a little hidden accessory tray, and you just grab it from the back of the machine and bring it out towards you, and that's where you'll find your needle, Allen key screwdriver and your cleaning brush, and at the end of that is a little hole, and I'll just show you now what that little hole is used for. So with the cleaning brush, it has a hole at the end of it. What we can do is hold it out towards us and place that straight under the needle, and that holds the needle so that when we undo the screw, we're able to have something to hold onto the actual needle while it comes out. And you'll see when you take your needle in or out, there is a little hole up here where you can see that you've actually got whether you've got your needle all the way up or not. So with the Gloria we have the chain and cover needles at the front. So those positions are called C1, C2 and C3. C stands for cover stitch or chain. So these are the needles you'll use if you're using those two functions.
In your quick reference guide, we've circled it for you up here in the top left hand corner. You'll see under the triple cover stitch function reference, C1, C2 and C3 have needles above them. So therefore, for triple cover, it recommends that you have the 3 needles in those positions.
At the back we have the overlocking needles. We've got overlocking needle 1 and O2. So those ones are only used when you're using overlocking function of this machine.
So therefore, if you refer to your quick reference guide, under the 4-thread overlock, you'll see position O1 and position O2 have a needle above them. And once again, that is where you'll put your needles for the 4-thread overlock function.
So to change our needles, make sure the needles are at their highest point by turning the flywheel out on the right hand side of the machine. To undo the screw, grab your Allen key from the accessory tray and pop it in so that you can feel that it's engaged. Turn it to the left to remove your needle. Put your point of your needle straight down and bring the needle out. Don't do the screw back up again on the Gloria. On some machines you do have to. On the Gloria it has a little safety plate at the back, so just leave those screws. They've got a little holding plate there so the screws won't fall out through the vibration.
The reason we don't do the screws back up without a needle being inserted is because you can damage the needle plate behind.
So as previously mentioned, you could use the hole at the end of the cleaning brush to hold the needle in place and prevent it from falling down into the machine. If you do happen to drop the needle down into the machine, at the bottom of your Gloria there is a little plate. This can be removed, and that's magnetic, so the needle generally will fall there if it goes anywhere. Another way of stopping the needle from falling through is just by simply placing a piece of fabric underneath the foot. So if you were to raise your presser foot up, pop your fabric under there, then any needle that falls in will actually just stick into the fabric and not go anywhere else. At the right hand side of your machine you have the flywheel. Always turn this towards you when forming a chain or using your overlocker in an overlocking function. If you turn it backwards, it actually unchains your overlocker, so therefore it unchains your stitches and it's not forming a stitch anymore. So always get into the habit of turning this flywheel towards you. Now when you're threading your needles, we have our push to thread needles button. The push to thread needles button will work with all needle positions. So if you've got needles in your front cover stitch section or needles in your back overlocking section, this button will actually thread all of these needles. However, you do need to select whether it's the chain cover needles at the front or whether it's the overlocking needles at the back. And we have our needle threader at the side. So when you're threading the needles, we need to put it into threading mode by pressing this down to threading. We turn our flywheel towards us so that the machine locks, and you'll notice these two bars came out, and that is creating your air tube. That's now put our needles in the correct position for our needle threader to work. If you're threading the needles at the front, you will pop your switch here to cover and chain. If you're threading the needles at the back, you will pop your switch to overlock. I'm going to thread the front ones first, so we'll pop that to cover and chain. You simply pull your needle threader in the down position, make sure your threads aren't behind. Pop that down and aim the thread in the area that you wish to thread it into. You can either press the button to stop it or raise the needle threader up. Now if you find it a little bit hard to aim that thread into place, there is a device that they supply you. This simply goes into this area here and push back at the top, and that clips into place, and that gives you a little bit of a larger area to pop your thread into. So it's a bit of a guide to help you pop the thread where you need to. So bring your needle threader down, pop your thread into around the hole there. And away she goes. I actually prefer it without the guide, but it's completely up to you. So to take the guide off, simply pull it towards you here and slide it off without interrupting your threads in that position. So make sure you've got no fluffy end, pull your needle threader down, aim it in the right spot and simply push the thread.
The Gloria has 3 types of threading modes for the push to thread button, so refer to your instruction manual for instructions on how to change this. In your box you'll find this 3 spool stand extra addition to your overlocker. There's 2 notches on the machine there. You simply line up the notches on the spool stand with those holes and clip into place. To remove the spool stand, simply squeeze at these 2 points here, pull upwards, and the spool stand will come off. And to clip back on, as I showed you previously, simply line it up, click it into place, easy as that. In the box you'll find your telescopic thread guide. Pop that into position and pull it to its highest position. Rotate the shaft to the left and the right until each section clicks into place and the little notches go into place, and that will ensure that the telescopic thread guide does not rotate or vibrate while the machine's in use. The front cover may be opened by simply placing your fingers behind the cover on the upper right hand side and gently pulling towards you. To open the cutting blade cover, place your thumb against the tab and slide the cover to the right. A slight pull towards you will allow this cover to swing down. This provides access to the loopers, blades and thread guides and allows you to see what's going on.
At the top of the machine you will find the handle. This simply lifts up and enables you to carry the machine.
Okay, so the chain and cover stitch needle tension dial is located on the left upper side of the machine. One tension dial controls all 3 of the chain and cover stitch needle selections. Normally set at 5, the dial can be turned from 0 to 9 to increase or decrease the tension of the chain or cover stitch needle threads. Increase the tension by turning to a larger number, decrease by turning to a smaller number. The tension system of the chain and cover stitches are completely separate from the system being used on the overlock stitches. So you'll find the looper tension for your chain and cover stitch on the upper right side of your machine. And this can be turned higher or lower to increase or decrease your looper tension for the chain and cover stitch.
This is your cutting blade locking dial. When it's in the lock position, your blade is in the down position, and when you rotate your machine, the blade is locked in the down position. However, if we turn it so that we flick it around and there is no writing on the top, your blade becomes engaged. When you turn your flywheel, your blade comes up and rotates to cut the fabric. This switch is your upper looper positioning knob. When it's in the up position, your upper looper is engaged. Once again, if we turn our flywheel, the looper is engaged. However, when we switch it to the down position, you'll notice it doesn't quite engage all the way to the down position until you turn your flywheel. It then locks into the down position, the lever flicked into the down position, and your looper is no longer engaged. This enables you to pop your flatter cover stitch table on for cover stitch function. To put this looper back in the up position, simply turn the dial to up, rotate the flywheel on the right hand side of the machine, and your upper looper will then become engaged and operate for your overlocking. This table is for normal overlocking. To remove it, you simply press this center piece down here. As you pull backwards, that takes it off. In your accessories, you will find the flat table. This is for cover stitch and gives you a flatter cover stitch area. To attach this, line up the 3 places into the cover. Just simply push it in, and when your looper is in the down position, your cover will close. To take this one off, press the center, remove, and then slide this one on. And then you have your knife cover back on for normal overlocking. On the left hand side of your machine, in the middle, you will find your presser foot pressure adjustment dial. It comes preset at normal from the factory. However, you may need to decrease the pressure due to the thickness of the fabric. So you can either increase or decrease the pressure according to the fabric that you're using. This will add more pressure or less pressure to the foot, so it holds finer fabric more firmly or thicker fabric loosely, depending on what you're sewing. On the right hand side of the machine, we have our presser foot lever. So that is in the up position or the down position, and you'll notice over here it raises or lowers your presser foot. On the Gloria, our feet are snap-on, so we just raise the presser foot up, press the button at the back of the foot, and your foot will simply clip off, and you can take that off to put a new one on. To line it back up again, simply place it on so that this bar clips on to the groove underneath. You've got the ability to raise the presser foot a little bit more, lower it down. If it doesn't click into place, you can just press on the button at the back again, and that will lock it into place. You can simply hold this in the up position while you put your foot under the machine, and that gives you a little bit of up and down movement there to help you fit that under the presser foot a little bit easier. At the front of the machine you have your stitch width dial. You'll notice there are 2 numbers at each point indicating the stitch width from the needles to the cutting blade. The highest number, see how we've got a 6 there, that is the stitch width from the left needle to the blade, whereas the 3.5 is from the right needle to the blade. So you'll notice the higher the number, the more the blade moves to the right, so therefore it's 7.5 mil from the left needle to the blade, or 5 millimeter from the right needle to the blade. The lower the number, it moves the blade in, and therefore you get a narrower seam, so that one is only 5.5 mil from the left needle to the blade. On the right hand side of the machine you'll find your differential feed dial. Differential feed dial adjusts the feed dogs on the machine, so the higher the number, the more it will gather the fabric in. The lower the number, the less puckering occurs. So normally it sits on N for normal. If you want to create a gather, you'll go higher. If you want to stretch the fabric out, you'll go lower. So if we take the presser foot off the machine, by clicking the button at the back of the foot and sliding it out to the left, the differential feed adjusts the front set of feed dogs. So you have a back set of feed dogs and a front set of feed dogs. The front set of feed dogs get adjusted by the differential feed. The higher the number, the more forward they come and the more fabric they feed in per stitch. The lower the number of the differential, the further back they go, and therefore it feeds less fabric in per stitch.
I just love this feature on the Baby Lock Gloria. It has a speed control, so you can slide it to the left to go slow or slide it to the right to go fast. And here are your threading ports. You've got your upper, your lower, and your chain looper threading ports. Okay, so if we open the front cover, raise the presser foot to release all the threads, set the threading lever from surging to threading position, rotate the machine hand wheel slowly towards you until the tubes move to connecting position. This enables your looper threads to shoot through.
This button here is what you will press to create a quick burst of air, and that allows your thread to flow through each threading port once you have engaged the threading system.
You will then close up your covers, and remember you can't close this door if it's still in threading mode, so you must change it to surging mode, and away you go.
The stitch length rolled hem adjusting dial is conveniently located at the front of the machine. You'll notice there is a standard section and a rolled hem section. We'll just zoom up in on that. With the standard section you have the numbers 1 to 4. Higher the number is longer the stitch. Average stitch is around 2.5 to 3. When we turn it to the lower number and go all the way to 0, you then enter into the rolled hem section. This is where the rolled hem stitch length is selected, and at the same time it will pull the stitch finger away. Normally the stitch finger is engaged for your normal 4 thread. When you turn it to rolled hem, it takes that stitch finger away, and you adjust the stitch length according to your quick reference guide.
At the rear of your presser foot, you'll find a quilting guide fixing screw. This will hold your quilting guide in place.
The stitch selection lever, which controls the overlocking thread delivery system for overlocking, is located on the right hand side of the machine. Select the appropriate setting, A, B, C or D, depending on what your quick reference guide says. A is for overlocking stitches using the left needle and the looper threads are balanced. B is using the right needle and the looper threads balanced. C is for narrow stitches with a shorter stitch length and the looper threads balanced. D is for stitches that require a tight lower looper, for rolled hem for example. Refer to your quick reference guide for best results. There is a thread cutter located on the left side of your Gloria. At the end of the seam, simply sew off the edge of the fabric. Continue to create a chain for about 5 to 6 inches and then bring the thread up from the back to the front and through the cutter. And it simply cuts your chain easily. The door on the left hand side easily opens. This enables you to see when your cover stitch thread is threaded. Using the subsidiary looper, which is otherwise known as the 2-thread converter, open your covers to expose the upper looper. Either thread can be used and engaged for the 2-thread overlock sewing. To engage the 2-thread converter, pull it to the right and flick it across so that the little end of it lies in line with the eye of the looper. Ensure that you have unthreaded your looper, so remove the upper thread from the machine. Rotate the hand wheel to bring the needle clamp to the highest position and simply slide this to the right, swing it counterclockwise to the left and make sure the hook of the tip is in the looper. Close the covers and you are then ready to thread it for 2-thread overlock. To disengage the subsidiary looper, pull it to the left and rotate it clockwise to the right to disengage it. Your Baby Lock Gloria comes with a knee lift. This is your knee lift and it plugs into this front hole at the front of the machine. You've got 2 notches there. You simply line those up with the machine and push until you get a little click. And when you move your knee against the knee lift, you can slide it over. This will raise and lower your presser foot. Very handy for those hands-free times where you need both hands on your fabric. You can just move your knee across to raise and lower the presser foot. At the front of the machine, you will see this fine-tuning dial. This is your upper and lower looper thread fine-tuning knob. No adjustments are needed when sewing most fabrics and threads on your Baby Lock Gloria, but certain fabrics and threads may require minor fine-tuning of the looper delivery system to perfect your stitches. Increase or decrease the delivery of the looper threads and the upper looper and lower looper thread fine-tuning knob. With your fingertips, simply turn the dial. So if you are going to the left, this will tighten the looper threads equally. Turn the knob clockwise to the right to loosen the threads equally. Normally you'll find it will be fine here, but as it is a fine tuner, so if it's not perfect and you've checked your threading and you've checked everything else, use this to fine tune your looper threads. With your overlocker, you've got padded spool caps. They've got a little foam overlay on them. It goes with the foam side up, and this will stop your spool from spinning around. So it's for use for your smaller spools. So it brings your thread off the top, and your thread can't catch underneath the spool because it's supported by that spool cap. If you have a spool with rough edges, ensure that the edge with the notch where your thread may be put aside, make sure that that's down. This simply goes into the top of your spool and your thread can then run off the spool nice and smoothly without catching on any rough edges. With our larger cones like these, you do need to use your cone holder. So that just simply goes on. Your large cone then goes on top and you pass your thread up over the spool thread guide. You'll notice the Baby Lock Gloria has 8 cone holders. There are 4 positions for normal overlocking and 4 positions for your cover stitch. Each one is labelled, so you'll have the gold lettering for your cover stitch. So you'll notice chain looper here is in gold. You'll have chain needle 3, chain needle 1 and chain needle 2 at the back, all in gold writing. So the gold threads I've got here are the cover stitch positions. The blue thread that I've got here is for your overlocker positions. So they are in green writing. You've got overlocker needle 1, overlocker needle 2, upper looper and lower looper. Your thread just goes from the cone, from the back of the spool stand over to the front, and then clip them down into the thread guide at the back. At the front of the machine you have the wave and overlock switch. When you're in normal overlocking mode, it stays in the overlocking section. When you're wanting to do a wave function, switch it to the wave function. The Babylock Gloria has the exclusive overlock thread delivery system, so you no longer need to manually adjust the tension settings for the type of overlocking stitch you're doing. Simply select the type of overlock stitch you wish to serge, and the Gloria will automatically feed the correct amount of thread through the needles, the loopers and the thread guides to form a perfect stitch every time. Just ensure that you use the A, B, C or D depending on the stitch that you are doing at the time.
We really hope you enjoy using your Babylock Gloria as much as we do. Happy overlocking from the Perth Sewing Centre team.